So as promised, this is part 2 of the D-line user rush tutorial, where part 1 went over the fundamentals. Part 2 will go over some very simple counter strategies when your opponent tries to counter you. Again, this technique can be done out of any formation, but it works particularly well as the nose tackle in big nickel over G. So we'll get started with that against a common shotgun passing formation in gun bunch. So by itself, the swim move is very effective against the pass and actually the run. Even without abilities, it allows you to get consistent, quick pressure while maximizing coverage and containing the quarterback, like so. So you can run any coverage you want, mixing things up along the way, man, zone, different variations of each. You'll have contains on your defensive ends that will get at the quarterback and actually contribute to a lot of sacks if they try to escape from the pocket, and you're providing that pressure through the middle, again, as the one technique in big nickel over G. But as you'll see later on this video, we can mix things up a little bit as well. So really what happens in the end is that for your opponent, there's really no way to escape, and they just have to sit there and really be perfect and quick with their reads. It really forces them to play differently, and if they're smart enough to counter your rush with a few different ways that they can go about it, it opens up a new part of the game that, at least for me, has been a breath of fresh air. So if you haven't seen that video, I would suggest going through it, because there's a lot of nuanced things that come about it, and a lot of interesting tips and a lot of interesting thoughts that I think I put into that. But summed up really quickly is, again, you're picking the one technique, so the guy in the A gap. So you're going to user him, and once the ball is snapped, the guard in the center will likely double team you, and once you have engaged with both of them, you're simply just going to do a swim or club move. So it's left or right on the right stick. So in this case, I usually go right into the center. I think that provides the best technique for me. Again, I'm going to be patient, let my defensive tackle or my nose tackle engage with them, run that swim move, and maybe 9 times out of 10, I'll split that double team and I'll be aligned perfectly to the quarterback. So in this case, snaps the ball, engage, shed those guys, and go in for the sack. Now, one common thing that you'll see is a blocked running back. Now, this is already tough for some people, because a lot of people really like to use the running back in the passing game, especially against man coverage, where those Texas routes and stuff like that are really hard to cover. But if you're forcing them to bring the running back into block, well, then you're already making some good strides towards better defense. But if you still want to get towards the quarterback, there's a number of different ways we can go about it. Number one, you can shed or evade the running back. So I'll show you here. Once I shed the initial double team, I'll get engaged with this guy, and I can still shed him and come in for the sack, even though it does take a considerable amount of time. There are situations, though, that when the running back's in, you can shed these guys and work around, but in a lot of cases, he'll still block you. So what I suggest is to get the fastest possible guy you can. So Buckner here is pretty good for a nose tackle, but I'll usually have the fastest defensive end that I can get in Ultimate Team, and I'll stick him there in the one technique spot. And a lot of times you can run around the running back. Sometimes the running back will key on one of the edge guys or your other rusher if they come in a little bit quickly, and then he'll just ignore you. Essentially, you can go into the quarterback. But a lot of cases, he makes things difficult for you. So either you can evade him, or you can just shed him. And if you have the under pressure ability, even sometimes you can, even if it's a delayed rush, you can still affect the quarterback in some ways. Other things you can do is you can bring an extra rusher. So in this case, let me blitz the will linebacker right here. So what'll happen here is I'll still engage the double team with the guard in the center, and then the running back will be focused on the extra blitzer. And so once I shed these guys, I should be free in. One of us should be free in to come at the quarterback. Now, because you are user rushing the defensive tackle, a lot of people are going to look towards quick throws and stuff like that. But if it is 3rd and long or 4th and long, this could be a really good option for you. Or you could bring some sort of a simulated pressure here. So you could still have this rush triangle here, and then you could zone off your other guy. So whatever you want to do, whatever it is with your coverage, you can, what do we want to do? Take the defensive end on the other side and just put him into coverage. So you still have 7 guys in coverage and you're still rushing 4, but in this case, you'll be a little bit more, you'll still be able to come around the running back this way. Nice. Okay, so I just realized that the guard and center for the Cowboys here are really, really low rated, so obviously you can shed them really easily. But just note that when I'm running this in Ultimate Team, even the best of the best guards and centers, you'll shed them just the same way, just as quickly and just as consistently. So do not really worry too much about that. However, sometimes, and it isn't very often, but sometimes you will get somebody running post up at their center position here. So right here I put in Zach Martin at center. He has post up. So if we run the same thing again and we try to shed these guys, well, we're never going to get through. So here's where we might already start switching things up in terms of where we want to rush from. So one thing we can do already is we can switch to the 3 technique instead of the 1 technique. You can go to the defensive ends, but I generally don't like to do that for 2 reasons. I think it's harder to get consistent sheds. Plus, even when you do, you're the furthest away from the quarterback. So even though it's you shed, it just takes you a while to get to the quarterback. So I generally never touch them. Plus, I really benefit a lot from these guys being in contains, because a lot of times they'll disengage, or the quarterback will try to scramble, and they actually end up getting the majority of my sacks. So I don't really like to touch the ends at all. In this case, if there's post up and I'm on the center, I just won't touch it. But there's one thing you can do is you can just switch to the 3 tech. So, if you have 2 really good guys here, you can just easily switch between them. If you have 1 really good guy, you can, just flip this over and just rush the outside shoulder of the guard there. The technique's a little bit different, but by and large, you're still engaging and running the swim move. So in this case, we're going here, and I'll just swim him to the outside, and same old thing. Or if you don't want to shift around, you could simply slant your line away from the center, or slant yourself away from the center. So now I'll be attacking the outside shoulder of the guard, and plus I'll have my other 3 technique coming in to take the attention of the center. So in this case, I got 1-on-1 here, and I swim this guy almost just as quickly, and I come in at the quarterback. The other thing you can do, if they start following you around, so say if you have a star under your main pass rusher, so it's a little bit easier to identify where you're coming from, or if they have identifier on top of that, they can essentially see where you are, and whether you're at the 3 tech or the 1 tech, they can use the manual double team feature to get that center to follow you essentially wherever you are. But the other thing you can do is just bring an extra rusher, just like with the running back. So now if they are double teaming you at the 1 technique here, they only have essentially 4 blockers for 5 rushers. So there's just, in this case, we actually still split them, but you see we had that extra rusher coming in through. So I'm not sure actually what happened there. I think maybe the center might have come off of him late to go pick up that extra rusher, and I think I was just shedding the guard that way. But either way, that extra rusher is definitely helping us. And similarly, like we did with the running back, we can take this guy away. So, we can bring this guy in here. So we're still only sending 4, but because they are using the double team mechanic, they're taking 1 blocker out of the play here. So they run the same thing, and we have the free rusher coming in. And what's cool is that even if they block a running back on top of this, so they have 6 blockers, and then they have the double team on you, and you bring the extra rusher and you zone off, however you want to do it, you zone off the end coming away from the rusher, so you have 4 against 6. A lot of times that rusher will still come in, so you're engaging with these 2 guys, and sometimes you can split them, and even still that rusher could get in. So already you see some of the really cool things that we can do with it, that even if they are smart and trying to counter this stuff, we have counters off of that and still maintaining those high levels of pressure. The other thing you can do is play around with different formations. I'm sure there's even better ones than what I've been working with, but this is nickel wide 9 here, where you have 2 3 techniques and 2 wide 9s. So it makes it really, really difficult for them to double team you. So if they try to double team you as the 3 technique over here, what actually ends up happening is that the tackle and the guard will double team you, and the center will come over and try to get the unblocked rusher on the end right there. So a lot of the times what ends up happening is that because the tackle is blocking you in the guard, is that this guy will come in free at the quarterback, or the center will sometimes, if he's good enough, able to essentially wrap around and block him, but still you have a double team on the guard and the tackle. which will likely not have that post-up ability, and you can split those guys really, really easily. So here, I don't know if I put it on already, but double teaming myself here, you'll see the end come in free. He gets picked up, but I'm able to split that double team easily without the post-up. So that's it. That's just the really basic, some of the stuff that you want to consider there. There are some people that do some even crazier things with their protection. You have to consider even more, but by and large, this is all you really have to consider. Most of the time, you can just get away with rushing them without any sort of thinking or anything whatsoever. But when you come against the good players, these are some of the things you have to start thinking about. So definitely put those into your game. Evolve with this. I think it's really, really fun. As something to run the whole game or something to sprinkle in and mix up. It's always great to keep your opponent guessing. So a lot of times I won't be on him. I'll be usering as I normally do. Or a lot of times I'll even peel off with this guy. So, I'll put myself in a spy or leave myself in a blitz. And then once they rush, I'm here usering these guys, and usually it throws everybody off. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.